This isn't our child. That's what my husband said when I brought our newborn daughter home. I froze in the doorway, cradling our daughter to my chest. What are you talking about, Alex? Of course she's ours. Look at her, Madeline. Be places, look. She doesn't look right. His voice trembled as he backed away from us. After 5 years of marriage and 3 miscarriages, we'd finally succeeded through IF. Olivia was our miracle. I'd spent 36 hours in labor for this little girl. There was no mistaking who she belonged to. She looks exactly like my baby photos, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The nurse confirmed her ID bracelet twice before discharge. Alex shook his head. I watched them take our embryo. I saw the procedure. His eyes narrowed. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. When I didn't immediately reach for my phone, Alex snatched his own from his pocket and dialed. I stood helplessly in our living room watching my husband pace frantically, accusing the fertility clinic of switching our baby. I want a full investigation, Alex shouted into his phone. No, I will not calm down. We paid over $40,000 for this procedure, and you've given us someone else's child. My mother-in-law Rachel appeared in the doorway connecting to the kitchen, her thin lips pressed into a frown as she approached us. Let me see the baby, Madeline, she said, extending her arms. I hesitated. The coldness in her eyes made my arms tighten protectively around Olivia. She's sleeping, I mumbled. Rachel ignored me, pulling back the blanket to examine Olivia's face. 5. I see what Alex means. She doesn't look like either of you. She's a newborn, I protested. They all look similar right after birth. Alex ended his call and glared at me. They're sending someone to take DNA samples tomorrow. Until then, I want you to keep it. In the nursery, my voice cracked. She's our daughter, Alex. Her name is Olivia. We don't know that, Rachel said, resting her hand on Alex's shoulder. Better to be cautious than attached to another couple's child. I looked between them, my husband and his mother standing unified against me and our baby. The joy I'd felt leaving the hospital evaporated, replaced by a sick dread in my stomach. This is insane, I said. You both saw me pregnant for 9 months. You were in the delivery room, Alex. IVF mix-ups happen all the time, Rachel said. I read about a case in California where a woman gave birth to twins that weren't genetically hers. I carried Olivia to the nursery we'd spent months preparing. The pale yellow walls and cloud-painted ceiling now felt like a mockery. I placed her in the crib, watching her sleep peacefully, unaware that her father had already rejected her. When I returned to the living room, Alex was on another call. I need an independent DNA test. Yes, tomorrow was fine. He glanced up at me, and I need separate samples from both parents. Both parents, I repeated after he hung up. You think I cheated? Alex didn't answer directly. We need to be thorough. How could you possibly think that? My voice rose. I've been by your side through everything, every treatment, every disappointment. I would never. Then you have nothing to worry about, Rachel interrupted. The test will prove you right. That night, Alex slept in the guest room. I lay awake in our bed, listening to Olivia's soft breathing through the baby monitor. Every few hours, I'd check on her, afraid that one of them might take her away while I slept. Morning came with Rachel already in the kitchen, preparing coffee as if this were her home. She'd insisted on staying to help with the transition, though all she'd done was feed Alex's paranoia. I think it's best if I move in temporarily, she announced. Alex needs support right now, and a new mother shouldn't be alone Pelly in this situation. Before I could object, Alex appeared. Mom's right. We'll need help until this is sorted out. The DNA technician arrived at 10. The process was quick swabs from inside our cheeks and a tiny sample from Olivia, who wailed at the intrusion. Alex wouldn't hold her to comfort her. He stood at a distance, watching with suspicious eyes. Results in 3 days, the technician said as he left. 3 days of living under a cloud of suspicion. 3 days of Rachel organizing my pantry, rearranging my furniture, and speaking about Olivia as the baby rather than by her name. 3 days of Alex working late, avoiding coming home to face what he labeled a mistake. On the second night, I caught Rachel in our bedroom going through my drawers. What are you doing? I demanded. She didn't even look embarrassed. Looking for clues? Clues to what? To who the father might be, she replied calmly. If it's not Alex, I wanted to scream to throw her out of my house, but I knew Alex would take her side. He always did. The only man in my life is your son, I said firmly, though right now I am questioning whether that's a blessing or a curse. Rachel smiled thinly. We'll see what the test says. You'll see what the test says. But she passed me, she added. You know, sometimes fertility clinics make mistakes with more than just embryos. Sometimes they mix up sperm donors too. Her words chilled me. This wasn't just about Alex doubting my fidelity. They were suggesting something much worse, that even if Olivia was mine, she might not be Alex's. I spent that night researching fertility clinic errors, finding isolated incidents, but nothing to justify Alex's extreme reaction. When I finally fell asleep near dawn, I dreamed of babies being shuffled like cards, of Alex walking away with another woman and child. I woke to the sound of Olivia crying and the realization that everything I'd worked for, my marriage, my family, my future hung on the results of a DNA test that should never have been necessary in the first place. The DNA test results wouldn't arrive for another day, but Alex had already cleared his clothes from our closet. He'd moved into the guest room permanently, taking most of his belongings as if preparing for a longer separation. It's just until we know for sure, he said when I confronted him, not meeting my eyes. I need space to think. What is there to think about? I asked, bouncing Olivia gently as she fussed against my shoulder. She's our daughter, Alex, the one we've been trying for since our wedding. He glanced at Olivia, then quickly away. I am not convinced. Rachel had fully installed herself in our guest bathroom, her expensive creams and motions displacing my postpartum supplies. She'd taken over the kitchen too, preparing elaborate meals that I was too stressed to eat. Alex tells me you are not breastfeeding, she commented that afternoon watching me prepare a bottle. The doctor said my milk supply isn't sufficient, I explained, though I didn't owe her this information. It happens with many new mothers. She made a dismissive noise. In my day, women tried harder, but then again, most women knew where their babies came from. I bit my tongue until I tasted blood that night. I heard Rachel and Alex talking in hushed voices in the kitchen. I crept down the hallway, Olivia asleep in her nursery behind me. Should have seen the signs, Rachel was saying. All those late nights at the office. Madeline was working on a big project before her maternity leave, Alex replied, but his voice lacked conviction. Of course she told you that. Rachel's tone dripped with condescension. And you believed her because you trust her. That's not wrong, honey. You are just too trusting. If the baby isn't mine when the baby isn't yours, Rachel corrected. Look at her features, Alex. Nothing like you or your father. Nothing like the Garrison men at all. I'd heard enough. I stepped into the kitchen, making both of them jump. Talking about me, I asked coldly. Rachel recovered first. Just discussing possibilities as a family should. This family includes Olivia, I said. And me? Yet you are both acting like we're strangers who invaded your home. Alex stared at his coffee mug. The test will clear everything up. And what if it shows she's yours? Will you apologize for putting me through this nightmare during what should be the happiest time of our lives? He didn't answer. The next morning I woke to find Rachel going through my phone. What the hell hell are you doing? I snatched it from her hands, checking your messages. Alex needs to know if you've been communicating with anyone suspicious. That's an invasion of privacy. She shrugged, unrepentant. These are extraordinary circumstances. I changed my passcode immediately, then took Olivia for a walk to escape the suffocating atmosphere of my own home. When we returned, Alex was sitting at the dining table with his laptop open. Did you know Dr. Patel at the fertility clinic has 2 malpractice suits against him? He asked without greeting me. Those were dismissed, I said, unstrapping Olivia from her stroller. We researched this thoroughly before choosing Pinnacle Fertility. Were they dismissed or were they settled? Alex pressed. Because tier is a difference. I don't know. Why don't you call him instead of accusing me? Alex slammed his laptop shut. I am not accusing you of anything. I am trying to find answers. You are looking for problems where there aren't any, I shouted back, causing Olivia to startle and cry. You are turning what should be a celebration into a nightmare. As I comforted Olivia, Rachel appeared, attracted by the noise. Perhaps you should take the baby upstairs, Madeline. Estashed isn't good for her. Neither is having her existence questioned. I snapped, but I retreated upstairs anyway. Later, I found Alex on the phone in his home office, speaking in a low, urgent voice. When he saw me, he abruptly ended the call. Who was that? I asked. Work, he said too quickly. You are on paternity leave. An emergency came up. He tried to move past me, but I blocked the doorway. Tell me what's really going on, Alex. This isn't just about doubting Olivia's parentage. You are hiding something. His face hardened. Right now, I think you are the one with secrets. That afternoon the clinic called. The results were in, but they needed to verify them before sending the official report. They wouldn't give details over the phone. This is standard procedure, the nurse assured me. Nothing to worry about, but her tone made me worry all the more when I told Alex and Rachel. Their exchange of glances spoke volumes. Why would they need to verify results? Rachel mused. Ines, they found something unexpected. Stop it, I snapped. Just stop. And just. At night, I discovered a bank statement Alex had left open on his laptop. There was a transfer of $25,000 to an account I didn't recognize, dated 3 days after Olivia's birth. The memo line read simply, inclination. When I confronted him, he snatched the laptop away. That's private. We're married. We share finances. What consultation cost $25,000? Legal advice, he muttered. You hired a lawyer against me? The betrayal felt like a physical blow against the clinic, he clarified, but wouldn't meet my eyes. I spent that night researching divorce attorneys, a task I never imagined doing with a 2-week-old baby. At 3 a.m. while feeding Olivia, I received an email notification that the test results had been delivered to our patient portal. My hands shook as I logged in, afraid of what I might find, not because I doubted Olivia was ours, but because I feared what would happen to my marriage if the results confirmed what I already knew. The page loaded slowly, each second stretching into eternity. And there it was. Probability of paternity, 99.999%. Alex was Olivia's father. I felt no triumph, only bone-deep exhaustion and simmering anger. I took a shite and sent it to Alex's phone, then turned mine off and held my daughter close. I've known you were ours from the moment I felt you kick inside me. In the morning, I found Alex and Rachel in the kitchen huddled over his phone. Are you satisfied now? I asked from the doorway, Olivia in my arms. Alex looked up, his expression unreadable. The results say I am her father. I know I saw them last night. Rachel intervened. Tests can be manipulated. The clinic has every reason to cover up a mistake. Enough. I slammed my hand on the counter, making both of them jump. The test confirms what I've been saying all along. Olivia is our daughter, your granddaughter, Rachel. Either accept that reality or get out of my house. Watch your tone, Rachel warned. Alex needs support right now. Alex needs to be a father to his child, I countered. And I need my husband back. But when I looked at Alex, I saw no relief in his eyes, no joy at the confirmation. Instead, I saw doubt, confusion, and something else, fear. What aren't you telling me? I asked him directly. He exchanged another glance with his mother. Nothing. I need time to process. As he spoke, his phone rang. He checked the caller ID and his face paled. I have to take this, he said, hurrying from the room. I looked at Rachel, who avoided my eyes. You know something, I said. Whatever it is, it's destroying my family. She started gathering dishes, her movements tense. Every family has secrets, Madeline. Sometimes it's better not to dig too deep. I followed Alex, finding him in the garage, speaking urgently. I don't care what it costs, he was saying. Make this go away. When he saw me, he ended the call abruptly. Who was that? I demanded. No one. Don't lie to me anymore, Alex. The test confirms Olivia is yours, but you are still acting like something's wrong. Tell me what's happening. Nothing's happening, he insisted, but his hands were shaking. Everything's fine as he brushed past me to return inside. I grabbed his arm. If you don't tell me the truth, I am taking Olivia to my sister's tonight. I won't have her growing up in a house full of secrets and suspicion. He jerked away from me. Don't threaten me. It's not a threat, it's a promise. The look he gave me then, cold, almost hateful, told me my marriage was in far more danger than I'd realized. And despite the DNA test confirming what I already knew, something told me the worst was yet to come. The DNA test should have ended our nightmare, but it only deepened the chasm between us. Alex spent the next morning locked in his home office, emerging only to microwave leftovers before disappearing again. When our phones dinged simultaneously with an email from Pinnacle Fertility, I knew we couldn't avoid each other any longer. We need to talk about this, I said, knocking on his office door. He opened it reluctantly. About what? The clinic wants a follow-up consultation to discuss the concerns we raised. Alex tensed. I'll handle it. No, we'll handle it together, as Olivia's parents. His expression darkened at the word parents. Fine, rail it for next week. They have an opening today at 3. I crossed my arms. I already confirmed. He checked his watch, then nodded curtly. I'll drive separately. I have errands afterward. Of course you do. I didn't bother hiding my bitterness at the clinic. Dr. Patel welcomed us with the tired smile of a man who'd had too many difficult conversations behind his desk. Charts and family photos created the illusion of normalcy, as if we weren't there to discuss whether our child truly belonged to us. The DNA results are conclusive. He began sliding papers across his desk. Olivia is unquestionably your biological child. Then why did you need to verify the results? Alex asked. Dr. Patel's expression became guarded. Standard procedure for any contested paternity. I never contested paternity, I said. That was Alex's decision. Nevertheless, Dr. Patel continued. We've triple-checked everything. The embryo transferred was created from Mr. Garrison's sperm and Mrs. Garrison's egg. There was no mix-up. Alex leaned forward. What about the other embryos, the ones still stored here? Dr. Patel blinked rapidly. They remain securely cryopreserved as per your contract. Have they been accessed by anyone? Tested, moved? Absolutely not our security protocols. I want them transferred to another facility, Alex interrupted immediately. I stared at him in shock. We planned to use those embryos for siblings, Olivia's biological brothers or sisters. Moving them wasn't a decision to make unilaterally, especially not in in the middle of this crisis. Alex, we should discuss this privately, I said. He ignored me, fixing Dr. Patel with an intense stare. I want a full audit of all access to our records and embryos, and I want it today. Dr. Patel's professional demeanor cracked slightly. Mr. Garrison, I understand your concerns, but I assure you, your assurances mean nothing. Alex snapped. Not after what happened. I repeated, nothing happened, Alex. The test proved Olivia is ours. He finally looked at me, his eyes haunted. You don't understand then? Make me understand? My voice rose, drawing concerned glances from the staff outside. Because this isn't about Olivia anymore, is it? Dr. Patel cleared his throat. Perhaps you two need a moment alone. No, Alex and I said simultaneously. The doctor sighed. Very well, Mr. Garrison. I can provide the audit you've requested, though it will take time. As for transferring your remaining embryos, both parents must consent in writing. I sat straighter, and I don't consent not, until Alex explains what's really going on. Alex's phone buzzed. He checked it, his face paling. I have to go. We're in the middle of a meeting, I protested. It's an emergency. He stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his chair. Dr. Patel, I'll be in touch, and just like that, he was gone, leaving me alone with a confused doctor and more questions than answers. Mrs. Garrison, Dr. Patel said gently, is everything all right at home? I laughed humorlessly. My husband thinks our newborn isn't his despite DNA evidence to the contrary. So no, everything is not all right. He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Has Mr. Garrison exhibited any other concerning behaviors? What do you mean, paranoia? Secrecy, irrational fears about the clinic or the APHR process. I thought about Alex's hushed phone calls, the mysterious bank transfer, his insistence on moving our embryos. Yes, I admitted. To all of those, Dr. Patel nodded as if confirming a suspicion. Mrs. Garrison, I am bound by doctor-patient confidentiality, but I want you to know that sometimes patients experience psychological distress related to fertility treatments. It's not uncommon. Are you saying Alex needs psychiatric help? I am saying that difficult journeys to parenthood can surface unexpected emotions and fears. He handed me a card. This is a family therapist who specializes in fertility issues. She might be helpful. I took the card, numbly thanked him, and left. When I arrived home, Rachel was holding Olivia, cooing softly. The sight should have been heartwarming. A grandmother bonding with her granddaughter. Instead, it filled me with her granddaughter. Here is Alex, I asked, taking Olivia from her. He came home, grabbed some papers from his office, and left again. Rachel studied my face. The appointment didn't go well, I take it. The appointment confirmed exactly what I've been saying all along. I cradled Olivia protectively. Why can't you both accept that she's ours? Rachel's expression hardened. Some truths aren't as simple as a DNA test. I was exhausted with riddles and half-truths. Either tell me what's going on, or stop with the cryptic comments. Rachel, she seemed to consider her options before speaking. Alex has been carrying a burden, one that's not mine to share. We're married. We're supposed to share burdens. Some secrets aren't his to tell, she replied enigmatically. I put Olivia down for her nap, then searched Alex's office while Rachel watched television downstairs. Most of the drawers were locked, but in his desk organizer I found a business card for someone named Eleanor Vance with Harvest Hope Fertility printed beneath her name. The address was in Providence, 2 hours away. I'd never heard of Eleanor Vance or Harvest Hope. We'd only ever worked with Pinnacle Fertility here in Boston. I photographed the card, then replaced it exactly as I'd found it. That night, Alex returned after dinner smelling of whiskey. He stumbled into the living room where I was feeding Olivia. I am sorry, he slurred, collapsing onto the couch. I am sorry for everything. What are you sorry for exactly? I kept my voice level, though my heart was racing, for dragging you into this. His eyes were red-rimmed. Whether from alcohol or crying, I couldn't tell. You deserve better? Better than what, Alex? Better than a husband who rejects his own child, who keeps secrets and makes me feel crazy for questioning them? He buried his face in his hands. I never wanted to hurt you, then stop hurting me, I pleaded. Tell me the truth. He looked up, his expression tortured. I can't, or won't. Before he could answer, his phone rang. He checked it, then rejected the call. Who keeps calling you? I asked. No one important. The phone rang again immediately. This time I was close enough to see the caller ID. Eleanor Vance. Who is Eleanor Vance? I demanded. And what does Harvest Hope Fertility have to do with us? Alex froze. How do you know that name? Does it matter? What matters is you are hiding something about another fertility clinic from me, your wife, the mother of your child. He stood unsteadily. You went through my things, and you've been lying to me for who knows how long. I was shouting now, causing Olivia to whimper. I lowered my voice. Either you tell me everything now, or I am taking Olivia to Ethel's tonight. You are not taking my daughter anywhere, he hissed, suddenly menacing. Your daughter yesterday, you wouldn't even look at her. His phone rang a third time. In a burst of drunken frustration, he answered on speaker. What? He barked. Alexander. A woman's voice, crisp and professional. This is Eleanor. I am calling about the situation we discussed. The family in Providence is threatening to go public. We need to increase the settlement offer immediately. I already paid them $50,000. Alex snapped. They want double that now. They're claiming emotional distress. This is extortion, Alex growled. This is damage control, Eleanor replied coolly. And may I remind you, the alternative is much worse for everyone involved. I stared at Alex, my mind racing. Settlements, families in Providence, damage control. I'll call you back, Alex said, ending the call. He looked at me, the color draining from his face as he realized I'd heard everything. I stood clutching Olivia tightly. What have you done, Alex? He took a step toward me. Madeline, I can explain. Then explain. I backed away, protective instincts flaring. What kind of situation requires settlements and damage control? It's complicated, he began. But I cut him off. That's not an explanation. That's an evasion. My voice rose again and Olivia began to cry in earnest. What aren't you telling me about our fertility treatments? Alex's shoulders slumped in defeat. Not here, he said quietly, not with her listening. He nodded toward the hallway where Rachel had appeared, drawn by our shouting. Fine. The nursery, 5 minutes. I turned away, carrying my sobbing daughter upstairs as I soothed Olivia in her room, rocking her gently until her cries subsided. I steeled myself for whatever revelation was coming. Something told me that after tonight, nothing would ever be the same. Alex appeared in the doorway, significantly more sober than before. His eyes lingered on Olivia, now sleeping peacefully in her crib before meeting mine. Whatever you are about to tell me, I said quietly. Remember that she's the innocent one in all this. He nodded grimly. I know. Then taking a deep breath, he began to speak. Alex's confession came in fragmented sentences, each more disturbing than the last. He paced Olivia's nursery, running his hands through his hair, his voice alternating between whispers and near shouts. It started before we met, he began. I needed money for grad school, Mom suggested. She knew someone at Harvest Hope Fertility. My stomach clenched. You were a sperm donor, he nodded, unable to meet my eyes. It was supposed to be anonymous, 5 donations, $5,000. Easy money. That's not uncommon, I said cautiously. Many students donate sperm or eggs, but most donors don't have mothers who work at the clinic, he continued bitterly. Most donors don't have mothers who manipulate manipulate records. A chill ran through me. What did Rachel do? Alex's expression contorted. She kept samples without permission, without records. His voice broke. She used my donations for women outside the program for money. I sank into the rocking chair, struggling to process this. Are you saying Rachel sold your sperm illegally? Not just sold it. Alex's eyes were wild now. She selected the recipients. The right looks, the right background, the right potential to create the grandchildren she wanted. The implications hit me like a physical blow. How many children, how many women? I don't know exactly. Maybe a dozen families. He laughed humorlessly. Eleanor's been handling the settlements, I repeated. You were paying off these families? Why? Some figured it out if you did DNA ancestry tests. Found half Sari tracked me down. He collapsed onto the ottoman near the crib. One family lives 20 minutes from us. Their daughter, she looks exactly like me. I thought of the mysterious bank transfers, the hushed phone calls. So when I got pregnant, I was terrified, he admitted. Not of being a father, but of what would happen when you eventually found out about the others. I thought I had time to fix it, to settle everything before Olivia was born, but then she arrived, and she looks like them. Alex looked at our sleeping daughter. She has the same distinctive features as the other children Rachel helped create. The room spun around me. You accuse me of infidelity because you were afraid I'd discover your secret? I thought maybe the clinic had somehow used the wrong sperm, my donor sperm, instead of my husband's sperm. He rubbed his face. It was irrational, I know, but I was terrified you'd find out everything. So instead of telling me the truth, you made me feel like I'd betrayed you. You let your mother move in and torment me. My voice rose and I forced myself to lower it, conscious of Olivia sleeping nearby. You let me believe my marriage was falling apart because you were too much of a coward to tell me the truth. Alex winced. Protect me. I stood, anger coursing through me. You weren't protecting me. You were protecting yourself. You don't understand the legal implications, he argued. If this becomes public, I could face lawsuits from dozens of families. Rachel could go to prison. Maybe she should, I snapped. What she did was criminal. She's still my mother, and I am your wife. I stepped closer, jabbing a finger at his chest. You chose me, Alex. You promised to love and honor me, but instead you've lied to me, gaslit me, and allowed your mother to terrorize me during the most vulnerable time of my life. He reached for my hands, but I jerked away. I am sorry, he pleaded. I'll make it right. How? By continuing to pay hush money to these families, by letting Rachel stay in our home after what she's done. Where does it end, Alex? Before he could answer, the door swung open. Rachel stood there, her face a mask of righteous indignation. I see Alexander has been sharing family business, she said coldly. Family business, I repeated incredulously. Is that what you call committing fertility fraud, Quirinian children without consent? Rachel entered the room, closing the door behind her. I gave those women what they desperately wanted, healthy children with good genes. My son's genes. You violated medical ethics, privacy laws, Alex's bodily autonomy, I countered. And for what? Some twisted desire for genetic grandchildren, for family legacy, she corrected, as if discussing something as mundane as an heirloom quilt. The Garrison line was dying out. Alexander was our only hope. Alex looked ill. Mom, stop. Those women were grateful, Rachel continued undeterred. They got beautiful, intelligent children. Alexander got compensated. Examen benefited, except for the families now being extorted for their silence. I said apt for Alex, who's paying for your crimes, a set for me and Olivia, whose lives you've thrown into chaos. Rachel's expression hardened. You always were dramatic, Madeline. This doesn't concern you, doesn't concern me. I laughed incredulously. My husband has biological children scattered across New England because of you. My daughter has Hasker she never knew about. Our savings are being drained for settlements. How exactly does this not concern me? Enough, Alex interjected. Both of you. But I wasn't finished. I want you out of my house, Rachel Unite. Alexander won't allow that, Rachel said confidently. I turned to my husband. Alex, he looked between us conflicted. Maybe it would be best if you stayed at a hotel for a few days, Mom. Rachel's face registered genuine shock. You'd choose her over me? After everything I've done for you, you did this to me, Alex said quietly. Not for me, Rachel's shock transformed into cold fury. Everything I did was for the Garrison legacy, for your future. She looked at Olivia sleeping in her crib. For her future, get out, I repeated. Or I'll call the police right now and report what you've done. You wouldn't dare, Rachel hissed. It would destroy Alexander's reputation, his career. Is that what you want for your husband, for your daughter's father? The threat hung in the air between us. She was right. Exposing Rachel would inevitably expose Alex, potentially ruining his life, and by extension affecting Olivia's future. Alex broke the standoff. Just go for tonight. We'll figure this out tomorrow. Rachel's posture stiffened. Very well. She looked at me with undisguised contempt. This isn't over, Madeline. After she left, Alex collapsed onto the ottoman again, his head in his hands. I am sorry, he whispered. I never meant for any of this to happen. I stood by Olivia's crib, drawing strength from her peaceful presence. What happens now, I don't know, he admitted. The settlements are draining our savings. Rachel's facing potential criminal charges if anyone reports her. And now tears of family threatening to go public with the whole story, which would mean media attention. Legal battles, our names and faces everywhere. He looked up, his eyes read Olivia's life under scrutiny before she can even hold her head up. The weight of it all pressed down on me. My anger at Alex remained, but now it was complicated by concern for our daughter. We need time to think, I said finally. I am taking Olivia to Amherst tomorrow. We'll stay there while I process all this. Alex nodded resignedly. I understand. That night I slept in the nursery, unwilling to leave Olivia alone in the house. I dozed fitfully in the rocking chair, waking at every sound, my mind racing with the implications of Alex's revelation. Morning brought no clarity, only exhaustion and determination. I packed a bag for Olivia and myself while Alex watched silently from the doorway. How long will you be gone, he asked as I zipped the suitcase. I don't know, I answered honestly. I need space to think. This isn't just about us anymore. He nodded, eyes downcast. I'll keep working on the Daria.